Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching into freedom's land.
All right, my name is Jermaine Gash, and I'm here with the Wise News Network, and I am super excited to be here today. I am with Mrs. Dot Guthrie. How are you doing?
I am well. I hope that you are.
I am doing amazing. I'm super excited to see the museum today. I've never been here before, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I am excited always to show the museum. So,
Very nice. Could you give us a little bit of your background? Actually, where are you from?
yes, I am from Clover, South Carolina, a little country girl that worked in the cotton fields of Clover, South Carolina. I attended South Carolina State University. I majored in library science and I got my master's in educational media. I'm a member of the Coretta Scott King Book Awards Roundtable Division with the American Library Association. I'm an author and I'm an associate minister, and I serve on the Gaston County Board of Education.
Wow, so many amazing accomplishments, and also I noticed that you are a soror as well.
Yes, I am.
Delta, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, my
yes.
mom is a AKA actually. I know.
We can still be friends.
Yes. But I'd love if you could take us around and just show us a few things. So yeah, wherever you'd like us to start.
Okay, I'd love to give you a tour, and we will talk, and we'll run into a few people that helped to make this museum possible.
Wonderful.
Well, the museum is divided into 8 zones. And of course, before we visit Zone 1, I would like to present our executive board or our board of directors. These wonderful men and women help to make the museum possible each and every day through their service. And we are so grateful that they volunteer their time in order to provide the excellent work that we do each and every day.
Amazing.
And since the museum is divided into zones, we thought that it would be good for us to cover the Gastonia area first. So we are looking at Gastonia history, and as we look at those that are displayed on the walls, I'd like to call your attention to the first African American doctor in Gastonia was Dr. Herbert J. Irvin. Dr. Irvin came at a time when blacks needed medical assistance and could not get it, or if they got the assistance that they needed, it was late during the evening. So Dr. Irvin came, set up practice, and actually was the founder of the Negro Colored Hospital.
Wow.
And he was an avid Negro Baseball League fan as well. Then we go to our next well-known doctor, who was Dr. Thomas Harold Williston. Dr. Williston was loved by everyone. When you hear and speak the word Williston, smiles are on their faces. My husband is 78 years old, and it was Dr. Williston who actually delivered him.
Oh, wow.
And more importantly than that, I have Dr. Williston's medical case.
Oh,
His
wow.
family
Yeah.
donated to the museum his medical case, and all of his medical tools are in the bag.
Wow.
Even
Talk about a full
a
circle
prescription pad. Yes, yes. So we're excited about that. Nowadays, we talk about financial literacy with our young people. It was Nathaniel Barber who was one of the founders of the Excelsior Credit Union. And this credit union at one time was one of the most important lending agencies in the Southeast. Nathaniel Barber was motivated to bring a concern to his colleagues when he went to borrow some money and was asked, "What's your collateral?" Well, he had no collateral and was turned down. So he decided then it's time to unite voices in the black community and create our own credit lending lending institution,
Very
and
nice.
that is what he did. So we are very happy when we talk about financial literacy
Yes.
nowadays with our
Yes.
young people. We want them to be cognizant of the importance of spending,
Yes.
saving, and setting goals so that the money won't be wasted.
Yes. You think that'd be something that they teach in school?
They
Yeah.
do.
Oh, wonderful.
Even
Good.
with the youngest child now,
Good.
financial literacy is
Wonderful.
taught. And when I was a librarian in schools, right before the book fair, I discussed financial literacy because little ones will come to the book fair and they'll see everything they want. I want that, and I want that, and I want that.
Yes.
And they can't have that because we express to them the importance of parents having money to provide food, clothing, and shelter to them. So that's why it is important for them to know, save your own money from the chores that you do, and you'll be able to make wise financial choices.
Amazing.
And decisions.
Amazing.
So let's move on down to
All
Zone
right.
2.
And could you tell us a little bit about the birth of the museum, how it came to be?
Yes. Well, as a librarian, I knew that there were lots and lots of authors and illustrators of color that just poured their hearts and souls into the literature. But the literature, in many cases, was unknown or often sat in libraries when librarians could afford to buy African American literature. And I just thought it would be wonderful if we could start our own museum where we can focus on African American history and culture and the literature, because literature can provide the bibliotherapy that many of our children need.
Absolutely.
So one night while my husband was watching TV, a football game, I knew that he was distracted, so I walked up to him and I said, Bobby, instead of us using our money to go on vacation, let's use the money and try to find a place to open a museum. He said, okay. That was all that I
That's all you
needed to
needed.
hear. Yes. So I was in pursuit of a building then so that we could house a museum. That's how on February 16th, 2019, with more than 400 people showing that they were ready to see an African American museum in Gaston County, they welcomed us as we opened our door for the first time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes, and we have been busy. As a matter of fact, we opened on the 16th of February 2019 and had to close around the 16th, 2020 because of COVID. We had seen over 4,000 people.
Wow.
People came from far and near to visit the museum, and they still do. Soon you will meet Mr. Moore, and we have served children, whole grade levels, whole schools to come in for programs. That's what we do, and the reason we do it is because we love to share the history. It's worth sharing.
Absolutely.
And if you look at that panel there, it was Dr. Carter G. Woodson who first started Negro History Week in 1926, and then in 1976 it was Negro History Month. Dr. Carter G. Woodson said, if a race has no history, if it has no worthwhile tradition, it becomes a negligible factor in the thought of the world and it stands in danger of being exterminated. Well, I've only taken you to two areas, and already you see that we have a very worthy history.
Very rich history.
Yeah, rich and vibrant that must be shared.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do. And in this area, we cover the municipalities in Gaston County. So we wanted to pull out from the townships some important information about those African Americans that made a difference. And I want to especially talk about Jethro Mann, who was called the Bicycle Man because he lived in Belmont and was the first African American licensed contractor in North Carolina, but he had a love for children. And what he did, he would recycle old bicycles, and the young people would show their character by coming to his house, going to his garage at the end of a school day, checking out a bicycle, riding the bicycle, and returning the bicycle, checking it back in. That's character.
Absolutely.
Responsibility. So we want to tell these stories because we know that they will grow our young people.
Absolutely. And I noticed that Cherryville is up there. The Wise News Network is actually based in Cherryville. So could you tell us a little bit about the history there?
Oh, well, Cherryville is there because we had a very wonderful educator, Herman Twitty, who actually worked at Cherryville High School, it was called then. And when young people could not afford, or their families could not afford socks or to pay for some type of dues that were required in school, or get some type of insurance for the students in school, Twitty would pull his faculty together and ask them to make the donations there.
Amazing.
And it was a Mr. Young, an African-American young man who actually, he's deceased now, but he actually integrated Cherryville High School. So there's history in Cherryville. And one of our oldest members in Gaston County resides in Cherryville. She turned 100 years old a couple of weeks ago, and she loves to fish. And her name is Hazel Brandon, and she's a member of the Tabernacle Baptist Church.
That is incredible.
So we're just all excited. I tell you one other thing that's really interesting. We talk about resistance now. That was part of the African American History Month theme. Well, a young lady from Bessemer City named Gwendolyn Harrison Smith filed an application to attend the University of Chapel Hill. She wanted to get a second master's degree in Spanish. She actually graduated from high school at the age of 12 or 14. Yes, very smart. So she completed the application, sent it to Chapel Hill. When she arrived on campus, ready to start her studies, it was discovered that she was African American. So they told her that someone in the office evidently made a mistake. Did she accept that? No. She said she had been accepted and she expected to enroll in her coursework. And she was persistent. Again, our young people need to know about that, how to be persistent. So she continued on and on and on, and she graduated from the University of Chapel Hill. There's a beautiful building right now in Chapel Hill called the Gwendolyn.
Oh, wonderful.
Was dedicated in her honor and memory. And her story is told on the walls of that beautiful building, how she persevered and was able to get her degree from Chapel Hill.
Amen.
A story worth telling.
Yes, absolutely.
We must tell the story to empower and impact others. About 2 years ago, Brandon Bellamy, who is the owner of the baseball team here, the Gastonia Honey Hunters, and I did an ESPN segment on Ransom Hunter. It was believed that Ransom Hunter was the first freed slave to own land in Gaston County. Believe it or not, this is Ransom Hunter's house of long ago. He was a businessman. He had a livery stable. He had a general store, and he owned land from where, if you know anything about Mount Holly, where the town of Mount Holly is now, all the way back to the other end behind Mount Sinai Baptist Church and Rock Grove Baptist Church. Ransom Hunter owned that land. And where the town of Mount Holly is now, he sold that land to the town of Mount Holly.
Wow.
a story worth telling.
So much history.
Yes, yes. So there are so many more on the wall, but we go to window zone 3, and this is where we want our young people to know that if they did it then, you can do it now. Perseverance is very important. Well, I don't know about you, but I like Hidden Valley Ranch dressing.
I love it.
Great. Well, it was invented by a black man. Steve Hansen invented Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. And the reason that he did so was because he was a Nebraska cowboy, also served as a cook. And when the cowboys refused to eat their vegetables, Steve had to figure out a way to get them to eat the vegetables. So he mixed a little bit of buttermilk and a few spices of this and that, poured over the vegetables, and that's how the cowboys ate their vegetables. Then Steve and his wife decided that they were going to buy an old dude ranch in California where they began to manufacture the Hidden Valley Ranch dressing until they later sold it to Clorox.
Wow.
So
well, I think a lot of parents still use that trick to get their kids to eat vegetables to this day. So.
If it works,
yeah,
it's a best practice. So we do it. And, you know, the children ride their little tricycles and they get the little bicycles and they stop at traffic lights, but they have no idea that it was these things were invented by African Americans. And that's why it's so really exciting to be able to say to them, the tricycle was invented by Matthew Cherry, or the traffic light by Garrett Morgan, or the goggles and the fire mask by Garrett Morgan. And the potato chip, something that they love, was invented by a half Native American, half African American named George Crumb. George Crumb was a cook in Saratoga, New York. And one evening, this very rich lady came to the restaurant to order food. So she ordered some fried potatoes. When George fixed the potatoes and sent them out to her, they did not meet with her satisfaction, so she sent them back to the kitchen. And George said, okay, I'll fix her. I'm going to cut the potatoes so thin, and I'm going to fry them to a crisp, and I'm going to send her out a basket of chips. That's what he did. The lady ate every last one of them and then said to give her compliments to the chef. So that was the beginning of the Saratoga chip, which later became the popular Lay's potato chip.
Had no idea.
History. And in this area, although windows of knowledge, we have men and women who actually did make that difference. They left an impact. And when we talk about leaving an impact, and we see this wooden box, one can't help but think of Henry Box Brown, who actually mailed himself to freedom. Henry Box Brown was a slave in Virginia. And one evening when he came home, he discovered that his family had been sold off to slavery. He was so distorted and so hurt. So he had friends, both black and white, whom he trusted. So he said to them, I'm going to mail myself from Virginia to Philadelphia to become a free man, and I need your help. So this is the exact size of the box that Henry built. And for 27 hours after they nailed the top down, he was out there, wondering whether or not he would make it. But he did make it. When he arrived in Philadelphia, they said to him that before leaving, now we're going to knock on the box. When we do that, you'll know that you have reached safety. But when Henry arrived, he was so distorted. He wasn't clear. So when they knocked the first time, there was no answer. And they wondered, did he make it? Is he dead? But Henry came to his senses. So when they knocked, he knocked back. They removed the lid, and they helped Henry to stand. And when Henry stood up, he recited Psalms 40. He was very, very happy to know that he had reached freedom's land. And because of that, we know that there are many, many advocates that were determined to say, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching into freedom's land.
Beautiful. And once again, there's perseverance.
Perseverance. Yes. And while I was working as a librarian in the Clover School District, I had the opportunity to meet one of the paid actresses that were in the Ruby Bridges movie. And she described how she felt knowing that she had a role to play and wondered how the little girl herself felt. There was a psychiatrist during those days that actually talked to children that lived in the segregated South. And one day he was talking to Ruby's teacher, Miss Henry. And Miss Henry told the psychiatrist that every morning when Ruby got out of the car, she would start working her mouth, working her mouth, working her mouth, working her mouth. And she wondered why. So she said to Ruby, Ruby, why are you working your mouth like that when you get out of the car? And Ruby said, I'm praying for those people that hate me. So Ruby said, my mama and my daddy and my minister told me that I needed to pray for those folk that were hating and saying bad things about me. About 12 years ago, we, meaning the librarians, had an opportunity to meet Ruby Bridges at a Coretta Scott King Book Awards breakfast in Chicago. It was a wow moment for us to meet such a historical figure and to be able to have breakfast with her. It was empowering for me. Read the story, never had the idea that I would meet that lady in person. Perseverance again.
Perseverance.
Determination and resistance. And there were two things that happened from the story. Ruby taught her teacher, Miss Henry, how to be patient and to persevere in spite of what was happening on the outside of the classroom. Miss Henry taught Ruby the academics. They became a teacher and student partnership. So that's why it is important for us to share the windows of knowledge. That's why it's important for children to hear the stories, because if Ruby Bridges could be so determined, if Ruby Bridges could say, I forgive them, we need to say to our young people, don't just spout off right away with your mouth. Let your actions speak for you sometimes. That's why it's important. Character, developing great character and having respect, important. So this is one of my favorite areas because these children are telling the visitors that are visiting the museum about the legends and the heroes, although they are being told from a child's perspective. And why from a child's perspective? Because the museum's goal is to use the resources that we have so that they can be applied to any age group that may visit the museum. And with parents saying to the children, you know, there's a little girl that looks just like Coretta Scott King. Do you know that the museum and schools have Coretta Scott King book awards that need to be read? That they are really exciting books written and illustrated just for you? Do you know that the Tuskegee Airmen were a very strong and united group of men who only asked for the Air Force to give them a chance so that they could fight in the war and to show that they were just as capable and skilled as any other pilot? So those are the stories that we must tell our young people. And of course, Fannie Lou Hamer. Oh, she believed in voting rights. She was a very strong advocate for voting rights. And her favorite song, This Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna let it shine. She wouldn't hide it under a bush. She let her light so shine until now we all know that Fannie grew sick and tired of being sick and tired of things not being equal. So our children need to know that.
Absolutely.
And here we have our sports section where many of some of the well-known athletes came right from Gastonia. We have Carl Foney, who was played with the Negro League. We have Leonard Hamilton, who is the coach of Florida State, graduated from Howland High School. We have Perry Fuel, who was at one time the coach for the Carolina Panthers. He graduated from South Point High School in Gastonia. We have James Worthy, who played with the Lakers, and we have my favorite Eric Sleepy Floyd, my nephew, who played with several teams, but the Golden State Warriors. And there's a jersey there, the Golden State Warriors, but that's not the one I wanted. I really wanted his jersey, but he wouldn't give it to me. So he bought one instead. And then we have the popular Elmo, whom we call Mo Hill, who talked about his experience as a player trying to earn the rights and respect when he went to play professional baseball. And Mo dedicated his jersey to the museum. And then we have a ball here signed by Hank Aaron that was donated to the museum, and you see that it's under case several times. So we're just very excited to be able to have these wonderful folk here in our sports area. We can score, we can get a goal, we can touch down, we can dribble all through the museum, telling the stories of those whom we hope will have a lasting effect on the folk that visit us. Okay? And we are always grateful for the men and women that serve in the armed forces. They are listed here, and as long as they will donate a uniform, we'll find a place for them in the museum. We are very happy to report that on April 18th, a mobile that will seat between 30 and 40 people will arrive at the campus, on the campus of Tabernacle Baptist Church, just down the road. And we are going to proclaim Marshall Cabinets Day on April 22nd. We're bringing the National Tuskegee Airman exhibit to Gaston County, to Gastonia from the 18th until the 23rd. We're very excited about that. And we have already one of our council women, Danielle Barber, is going to support a proclamation proclaiming Marshall Cabinets Day. We'll have information about colleges and universities. Parents will hear information about reading and the right tools to use and how to become a stronger literacy-based family. We want the information to be for family and fun on that day.
And this is April 18th through the 23rd.
That is correct.
Amazing.
Yes. Schools may visit throughout the day so that they can learn more about the Tuskegee Airmen and Marshall Cabinets, who was a Tuskegee Airman from Gastonia, graduated from the old Holland High School, and married the granddaughter of Booker T. Washington.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
We're just excited.
Of course, so much history here in Gaston County.
Yes. So much history in Gaston and so much to be shared. We have, and I'll tell you this, being on the school board, I thought that it would be very good for the museum to take the North Carolina standards and align the North Carolina standards to the zones in the museum so that when schools want to come visit, they can justify that visit. That's what we have done. And I can show you some additional things that we are doing as well. But if I have a senior group and they come, this is their favorite zone because they see this old iron, you better not touch this thing without having a pad or something damp to hold the handle. It will burn. And of course, the old wood stove is there to show and to remind me of how cold I used to be living in that poorly insulated farmer's house of long ago. We did have a washing machine, and it sat on the back porch, and we had to carry water from the spring to fill the washing machine.
Wow.
And that's how my mom washed.
And on that note too, I see the washboard there, and some people will recognize this, but it's also used as an instrument.
That's
in church
exactly right.
sometimes.
That's
Yep.
exactly right. Yes. But the skill and I guess the motions that they use will make that sound. Yes. You're absolutely right. And there's an old black wash pot there that my grandmother used to use. She would put bluing in the clothes once she washed them, and the bluing would actually make the clothes more bright when before she would hang them out on the line. But they also use that wash pot or a wash pot like that one for missionary ministries in country churches. They would take a wash pot, take it to the creek, make soup, vegetable soup, and then take saltine crackers. And when folk came up from the creek to have some lunch, my grandmother and her friends in the missionary would sell them a bowl of soup. And that's how they earn money. We talked about financial literacy over there, but over here is a different way for them to earn money. But that's how they earn money. Now, I am not going to tell you that I did not use this. This is a chamber pot. I called it in Clover a chamber. Other folk from various regions called it a slop jar.
Now, I have heard that.
Okay, the slop jar?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So different region. All right. And then we did not have a well. We had a spring. And that spring was just a little hole in the ground. And as long as the spring drain was clear of debris, it would produce the very best water, just good old water. And we would go to the spring with 2 water buckets, and we would get 2 water buckets filled with water. Spring lizards would be swimming around in the bottom. We'd take the dipper and catch the spring lizards and walk to the back door and throw them out. And you know something else we did? We all drank. This doesn't sound right nowadays. We all drank from the same dipper. even when folk came to the house to visit, and my parents would ask, "You want a drink of water? Go get him a dipper of water." Oh, my, how things have changed.
Yeah, especially after 2020.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lord, they
but,
changed before then for
Yeah.
me. 22. Yes. And then we have just some famous artists that reside or lived, grew up in Gastonia. We have Maria Howell, who starred in The Color Purple, and of course Don Lawrence, who is in gospel music today, and as well as we try to just not spotlight the local, but we try to look at the national folk too. And of course, Trombone Shorty won the Coretta Scott King Book Awards, and we talk about his trombone, and then we compare, the musical instruments here, and the drum, the djembe. And then in this area, Dr. John Biggers, this is a print. We could not afford to buy any originals. And one of my favorites, he died too young, but he was so gifted. And I'm not talking about the graffiti art. I'm talking about Jean-Michel Basquiat.
One of my favorites as well.
Him. I love his work. And, I want our children to know who our great artists were. And if we can give them even a print to help them to develop as well as appreciate the arts, that's part of the culture.
It is.
Developing the culture.
It is. I am a huge fan of arts. I'm also an artist. Are you a collector as well?
Well, I collect just about anything that's related to books. You're an artist?
I am. A painter. Various mediums. But,
I need to see some of your work.
We'll definitely have to talk about that.
Yes, yes. This is wonderful. Okay, before we leave North Carolina here, I want to show John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, Nina Simone, who lived right down the road, Tryon, North Carolina.
And who would have known?
That's exactly right. Max Roach. But Nina, what are you saying to the young people before they leave the museum? What message do you want them to take? You want them to take the message to be young, gifted, and black. That's the message. Then, when you realize that song ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, because you know, and you tell others what Dr. King said. You can't be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. And I cannot be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. We are interrelated. That's what you tell our young folk. And we have other folk on our board that help to do a tremendous amount of work when we are teaching and when we have classes to come. And I'd like to, if it's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Moore, are you there?
Very nice to meet you, Mr. Larry Moore.
Nice to meet you as well. I am Larry Moore. I was a Gaston County teacher for 36 years. I taught French primarily, but English, social studies as well. I'm just honored to be here. I was unaware that what was happening, but Miss Guthrie is a wonderful person, and I've learned so much from being in her stead, in her, how shall I put it? This is my lady. This is my museum lady. Just being a part of this museum as one of the board of directors, I have really broadened my whole spectrum on history, especially African American history, and just to be a part of it, to give back to students a history that they have no idea of oftentimes. we fill in the blanks for them here at the museum. We went to a heritage house in Gaston County, which the museum, Ms. Guthrie and myself represented the museum, and we were at a home that had no restroom, of course, no running water. You helped me with
It
this
was
because
a house of long ago, like the country houses that we lived in long ago. So we were there to depict life for the African Americans in the early 1900s. That's what we did. There was an old straw mattress on the floor, a basin where we actually, would wash hands, and old table or rickety cabinet.
some of the things that you saw in the nostalgic area were in that house. One of the things that we found, I think, well, very perceptive for me and Ms. Guthrie as well, is that so many people, African American and white, had endured and grown up in spaces like that. A lot of the people our age were telling about going to outdoor bathrooms, which both of us knew, grew up in situation. A lot of the kids that came were completely flabbergasted by,
Conditions.
yeah,
house and
yeah.
conditions.
You don't have a phone? This was, I can't do this. You don't have a phone? It was just impossible for them.
Wow. On that note, what's something that you would like to see from the museum in the future? What are some goals that you guys have?
Well, I would just say one of the things we definitely need is more space.
I wrote a grant to ask for 3 interactive kiosks. And if we can get those, then all of the history that's printed for the various modules that we have in the zones, we want to be able to scan. We want to be able to create a kiosk for the children, one for the adults, and make those things interactive, and we can house lots and lots of information. We have decided to become a research library as well. We are collecting African American books from long ago. We'll take whatever. And we are going to, in our partnership with Gaston County Schools, we are creating a database that will set or be housed in their school library databases, as well as we will, through the kiosks, have our own database. It won't be a Schaumburg like New York, but it certainly will be a research library.
At the onset of Black History Month, in conjunction with Gaston County Schools, this museum was honored to do 2 of the schools, elementary school, Lingerfeld Elementary School, and Greer Middle School. I'm a former middle school teacher, so I really had a ball when we had the middle school kids here.
And we were very fortunate to have other businesses here located in Laurel Mill to help us to promote the museum through our programming. It was an awesome opportunity. And in addition to our young people performing well or following the instructions that we asked them to follow, we were just so blessed to be able to present our history to many of them for the first, they were hearing for the first time. So, that's good. We do have a bookshop, and it's an African American bookshop. It consists of books that were written by local authors, as well as those at the regional and national levels. We have all, they're not up here, but we have all that's in print of the Coretta Scott King Book Awards.
Wow.
That's important to us, because if we are going to be an African American museum and research library, we need to have those things that are essential.
Absolutely.
We work with Belmont Abbey College, with Dr. Mary Stratton. We're in partnership with them. They will be coming one day next week, next Wednesday, and the students, instead of going to Belmont Abbey, will come here, and
Very
we will
nice.
do a program for them, because we are going to, and this is the third year, children are out of school on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. But how many of them really truly understand the significance of that day? How many of them can connect the Coretta Scott King Book Awards to Dr. Martin Luther King? How many of them know that it was Dr. King's wife whom the books were named in her honor? So we started a Reading Coretta's Books, a week-long celebration of reading the Coretta Scott King Book Awards, and we do it via Zoom at 7 o'clock at night. We did it for 3 nights this past year, yes, in January. But Martin Luther King Day is that Monday, so we launched the Reading Coretta's Books that Monday evening. We had Dr. Hemingway from the Clover School District. We're in partnership with the Clover School District.
Mm-hmm.
They brought one group.
Yes, we had a high school group from Clover High School, and they were tremendous. Just their knowledge level. These were African American students studying African American, which were black and white students from
Yes.
Clover. I mean, it was not just simple, and that's something that I was really happy to see, that this history is everyone's history. Our stories are stories that are integrated with the history of this country. And it's unfortunate that at this point we still have to talk about African American history, but until that void is filled, and until we understand that all of us, everyone here, Americans, Native American, Latino, white, African American, we all are Americans, and we all need to be aware of each other's histories.
And that's the purpose
Absolutely.
behind the partnership with Belmont Abbey College. Dr. Stratton came over, we sat down and we talked, and when the teachers are trained, when they get their degrees, they're going to be in those classrooms, and they need to know the various and diverse cultures that exist, so that our children will get what they need in order to show progress and to develop self-esteem, positive, because we all know that right now we need to look more closely at social emotional learning. And when we can do that and work together, we are growing a stronger and better Gaston County, not just for one culture. We are developing an appreciation for the cultural diversity in Gaston County. Wow. We would not be able to do the many things that we do were it not for the volunteers that we have. So we're very fortunate in that we have people who are willing to dedicate their time and their services each week so that they will be able to help us grow the museum in an excellent way. And I'm just going to ask them to tell you who they are, just their names.
Gwendolyn White.
I am Diane McMillan from Gastonia Tabernacle Baptist Church. Dr. Senior, Dr. Pastor Benjamin Hinton is my pastor, and his lovely wife, Sister Minister Hinton.
So, they're so proud to tell you, where they're from, but we are just all excited to know that we can depend on volunteers to help manage. And they manage the bookshop, and we have several items. Diane, would you like to just maybe mention how we promote sales for different items that are in the bookshop?
Oh, okay. We have this. This is our where we sell our books and different little items: candy, pencils, ink pens, the T-shirts, and everybody when they come in and do their tour, they after they get through their tour, they see these little items over here, and then they ask about them, and so we sell it to them. And it's for a donation to keep the museum going. It's not just selling; it's donating back to the museum to make sure it gets keep it up, because our young people really need to know, what's going on. They don't know a lot, but so I've learned a lot since I've been a volunteer here. So it's very important. But this is what we do. This is our area for selling books and stuff and T-shirts to give back to the museum so it can keep functioning. And so, we do it by cards or cash, check, whatever.
Once again, I wanted to ask you, where can we find you? If they've never heard of the museum before, where can someone find you?
Okay, well, we're located physically at 300 South Firestone Street,
Yes.
Suite P, in the beautiful historic Lorry Mill.
And it is beautiful.
Well, thank you. So that's where we're located, and again, the website. So, and anytime we promote special programs, you will probably find those on our Facebook page.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a special treat. Thank you guys so much for having us. I'm Jermaine with the Wise News Network, and we'll talk to you soon. After the segment, we had the absolute honor of having Mrs. Guthrie take us downstairs and not only show us the potential new space, which is bigger for the museum, but also the collections that are currently housed down here as well.
This is my COVID quilt. I made this from book jackets while I was home, while the museum was closed. If you notice, all African American titles made from book jackets. You just pull the jackets, the front part from the back, and just take your hands and wrinkle, wrinkle, crinkle, crinkle, wrinkle, and straighten out again, and wrinkle, 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 crinkle, and straighten out again. And then I have some a little thin backing, and then I covered the back with African American material, kente cloth.
Wow, this is an art piece, obviously, in itself. Do you show this anywhere?
We
Is it just
circulate.
for-
It
Oh, okay,
circulates.
It circulates, right.
We have 2 quilts that circulate. One of the quilts right now, the African American history quilt, is at the Cramerton Historic Museum on display.
goodness, wow.
Yes. So this one just came back from Woodhill Elementary School.
That's so nice.
And see what's so special about this one is that we have a tub of books, these books that are on the quilt, so the librarian or whomever can share whatever stories the children decide they want to hear from the quilt.
Wow.
These are some of the activities that the children do when they come into
This is incredible.
to the museum. They learn about these things as they travel from zone to zone.
Wow.
This is our African American coloring book, the first one that we
Oh my
did.
goodness.
And it shows the mayors. See, they're coloring. They're learning while they color.
Was it a local artist that put these together?
Yes. Oh, there he has Dr. Williston's medical bag.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
talked about Dr. Williston's medical bag upstairs.
Wow.
We're trying to get a display case so that we can I take it on?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I told you, and you can smell the anesthetics. I mean, this is it.
Wow, you can. Oh
You
my
can,
goodness.
yes.
This is incredible.
Yes, the family they brought that last week. I have not even had a chance to go through that. Look,
Oh my goodness.
isn't this incredible?
I am speechless.